I've got a bit of a confession to make. Shh, come a bit closer and I'll tell you. I like convertibles. Now, I know that goes against the grain of a middle-aged man, do you know what I mean? But there's something about driving a convertible I really like. And I've had quite a few of them. You know, I've had old MGs, I've had TVRs, I've had Lotus Elises, yeah, Mazda MX-5s, lots of Saab convertibles. But the one that I had kept the longest and had probably the most fun in was the one that was always sneered at by a lot of my male colleagues and friends, because it was a MINI convertible. And as well as being a fan of convertibles, I'm also quite a big fan of MINI because I've had quite a few of them. So when they rang me and said, would you like to come down to Spain and drive the new MINI Cooper convertible? Well, you can guess what my answer was. No, there's no need to thank me. I'm doing it for you guys. You're welcome. Welcome to this week's new car review brought to you from sunny Spain. Welcome to the new MINI Cooper convertible. Please sit yourself down, make yourself comfortable in the house of cars. Now, before I get started on this week's road test review of the new MINI Cooper convertible, it would be remiss of me not to remind you just to make sure you're subscribed to the House of Cars channel, yeah? Go and do it now, I'll wait for you. I've got all day. I mean, it's not exactly a bad view, is it? Once you've done that, make sure you then press the little bell button that's down below, because that's the way you'll be notified when our next video is uploaded and it's gone live. Once you watch the review, if you enjoy it, and I sincerely hope you do, because let's be honest, I have travelled quite a way to do this for you guys. Give it a little thumbs up, and don't forget, leave me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think about the cars that I feature on the channel, such as the new MINI Cooper convertible, and of course on the House of Cars channel on the whole. So MINI, as a brand, they've been quite busy over the last year or so, haven't they? Because effectively they've changed the entire lineup of cars. So let's have a little recap on what they've been up to. There's now the Countryman right at the top of the range, which is a very big car now. The Countryman has grown in size to be like a medium-sized SUV. And the idea behind the Countryman is if you've had an original MINI, as we used to know it, the little hatchback, and life's changed for you, you've had kids, you've got a dog, whatever, and you need more space, MINI want to keep you within the brand, so they now offer you a big car to do that with, and it's a good car. I like the Countryman, and you can have that as a combustion engine or as an electric car, because it's based on the BMW UK, I think it's the UKL1 platform they call it, which also underpins the BMW X1. So it's a multi-energy platform that can take both. Okay, and then we come down to a new car called the Aceman, which is sort of a 5-door crossover, and that is a bespoke EV. You can only buy the Aceman purely as an electric car. If you're interested in the Aceman, I have reviewed it over on my other channel, Auto EV, and it's worthwhile looking at it because, trust me, it's more than the sum of its looks, that car. It drives really well. And then we get to the actual MINI itself, the little hatchback, or as it's now known as, the MINI Cooper, because MINI now is a whole brand. That's the manufacturer, and Cooper is the model, the 3-door hatch. But here's the thing, that's the one that's a little bit confusing, because you can have it as the 3-door hatchback still, as a 5-door hatchback still, but you can also have it as electric, but they're not the same car. The electric MINI Cooper is only a 3-door and it's built on a bespoke EV platform, whereas the combustion engined MINI Cooper, 3-door and 5-door, is sort of like a re-engineered version of the old car that went before, dressed up in new styling and new interior and stuff, and obviously some changes, but effectively it is the old car that's been sort of like re-engineered. And that's what the convertible is. You don't get the convertible in electric form for now, because this sits on that combustion engine platform that the other Coopers sit on. Okay, understand? Clear? Great, let's crack on. However, before we head off into the sunshine, let's take a brief look at the new MINI Cooper convertible. Well, the car is, like I said, a substantially revised version of the car that went before, so it's not the same platform that comes on the new Cooper electric model. There are 3 models available, the C, the S that we have here, and the range-topping JCW. All cars are fitted with a 2-litre 4-cylinder petrol engine, with power ratings varying from 163 horsepower in the C through 204 horsepower in this S to 231 horsepower in the JCW. All are also front-wheel drive with a 7-speed automatic transmission only. 3 trim levels are available, either a classic, exclusive or sport. And prices start from just over £27,000 for the lead-in C to over £36,500 for the range-topping JCW before options. Now, Minis have always been fun to drive with an added dose of style thrown on top of that. But with this latest convertible model, have they got those two things around the other way? In other words, is it form over function? Is it more stylish than it is fun to drive? Well, of course, as I say, I've travelled all the way down to Spain to find out for you. Let's crack on with this week's new car review in House of Cars. Now, we're going to start with the styling of the car because it is a little bit confusing, I think. If you walk into a Mini showroom today and you see the electric one sat there and you see the combustion engine one, there are differences, you know, there are differences around the front. As I say, this is effectively based on the old platform, but they've changed so much of it. It's not just a mild facelift. It's a big change that they've made to the car. And the other thing is this: I've already reviewed the Mini the Cooper in electric form over on Auto EV, and I've also reviewed the Mini Cooper Sport in House of Cars. And with the Sport, I don't know, it just looked a bit fussy at the front. That's the one thing I will say. The Sport trim, we'll go on to how you spec your Mini a bit later, but when you spec it in the Sport trim, it's a bit fussy at the front. I quite like this. This is an exclusive trim level, and for me it's a bit cleaner at the front, and that's what I quite like about the Cooper Electric. It's very clean looking at the front. It's not, I think Mini sort of lost their way a little bit, if I'm being blunt about it, and forgive me if you have one. You know, so like I've had quite a few Minis, so I had the original R50, whatever it was, R53, sorry, and then I had an R52 Cooper S Convertible. Told you I like convertibles. And I always thought that one, that Frank Stevenson pen, the original car, was really nice and clean at the front. And then I went and I had an R56, and I think after that they started to get a bit, I don't know, there was gaps and vents and air intakes at the front. I just thought they started to look a bit clumsy. I like the fact they've got back to this cleaner look, but as I say, if you go for a Sport, it looks very different at the front. So just be aware of that. I like this cleaner look of this. And it does tie in with the electric one more. Of course, you get your ubiquitous Mini sort of like, you know, oval sort of like headlights there, but it's a single lamp unit in there, and just with a circular daytime running light round it, and then obviously sort of like turn indicators there as well. There is obviously a grille in this because it's a combustion engine, 2 litre as well in a Mini, and then obviously air intake there, forward facing front camera there, sensor for the radar guided cruise control. You know, when you talk about Minis and you think about my age and you're thinking way back to when it was the original Mini, and you start talking about cruise control in a Mini, electric windows, electric roof, radar guided cruise control, cameras, really? Come on. But anyway, it's all there, you know, so you've got all the tech there. And then of course you've got this sort of like shape around it here in this, I don't know what they call it, but it's like almost like it's like a bronze tinted matte finish that goes round it, and that's the sort of like the grille of the Mini now. That's the shape that the Mini grille is in, with the body colour bit sort of like running through it. But as I say, I like it. I do like the new car. I'd like the look of it, but it's oddly enough, as I say, when you put it in the Sport, I know it looks quite aggressive and fun and all the rest of it, but I think it loses a little bit of style. I like the cleaner look of this one. But of course it's a convertible, and the cleanliness sort of disappears as we head backwards. But let's go around and have a look and you'll see what I mean. Now as you come around the side, you can see that shut line there, can't you? That's where the bonnet opens there. So that's like standard old style Mini. And of course the electric car doesn't have the black wheel arches. It's got body coloured and smoothed off wheel arches. But again, this retains the old black wheel arches, which I quite like. I think it suits the car. Classic trim gets 17-inch alloys from standard from memory. This is an exclusive, so this gets 18s, as you would with the Sport as well. You know, get the JCW, I think they're called parallel blades or something like that. Big ovoid door mirrors on the car. Yeah, really big door mirrors. And a camera. That's what I mean, the tech in it's incredible. Now, this is what I was talking about. The original Mini Convertible my one, the R50, what did I say it was, an R52, always had that sort of like pram style. Looked like a silver cross pram, didn't it, when the roof went down. They've managed to package it a bit lower in each sort of like generation thereafter, and you don't get the protruding roll hoops now. They still have, you know, rollover protection that fire, obviously if the car goes into that sort of a state, but there isn't the sort of like the chromed roll hoops that there used to be on my early car, and I think they still had them but lower down on the later ones as well. This particular one's got a wind deflector fitted. We'll chat a wee bit about that later. But yeah, look, I quite like it with this sort of like light blue colour. You've got the black door handle there, which just ties in with the sort of like black edges of the mirrors and stuff like that. But you know, it's quite clean. As I say, when you get here, you can't deny there is a roof there. You know, they can't package it any lower because there still has to be a boot, which obviously we'll talk about in a second. And I will show you the roof up and down because, like originally all the Minis did before, you can have it so it opens up to 40 centimetres above you to give you effectively like a big sunroof, or you can fold it down completely and you can retract the roof down. It speeds up to 19 miles an hour on the move, or you know, or bring it back up as well, which is quite handy. You know, if you're caught at a set of traffic lights, you know, when the rain starts or whatever, or the sun comes out, then you can get the roof up and down sort of like as you move away. So that's not too bad. But yeah, as I say, you can still notice that, but it's still recognisably a Mini Convertible. But look at the back end of it. Funnily enough, it wasn't part of the press cars, but I followed a new Mini Cooper out of Barcelona this morning, and I was just thinking about the new tail lights. You know, a lot of people don't like these triangular style tail lights. They've retained the old tail lights on the convertible. I think that's going to please a lot of people. You can configure the design that they have in them, so if you want that sort of, because it's that sort of, as I say, Spider-Man suit matrix that's in there, so you can have them, you know, in a sort of like almost like the Union Jack style or a different sort of like design. But they've kept the old car's tail lights, which is interesting. High level brake light there. The other option you can have is the Union Jack woven into the roof. I'll put some B-roll up of this car with the roof up, and that's an option on the car. I can't remember how much it is now. I think it's about £700. It's not cheap. But you can have that woven in. It's woven. It's not a transfer. It's actually woven into the roof of the car, which is quite nice. Black plinth across the back with your red S badge there, your Mini badge there. Reverse camera tucked underneath there, and then of course parking sensor at the bottom. However, look, no exposed exhaust pipes, and I do miss that especially on the Cooper S. I didn't mind. I know I'm just going saying I quite like the clean look, but I also did quite like, you know, the twin exhaust pipes on my Cooper S when I had it. You know, the centrally mounted exhaust. I do miss that a little bit, but other than that, I think they've done a really good job of it. I really like the look of the car. I think it's neat. It's obviously quite small and compact. It's recognisable as a Mini, and as I say, if you spec it right, that's the thing for me. I quite like the neat, clean look about it. But as much as I'm a Mini fan, it doesn't really matter what I think, does it? It matters what you think. Have you got one of the old Minis? Would you be tempted to trade up? Because there's a lot more to talk about that they've changed in the car. Or were you thinking, no, actually, I still prefer the look of my old car. I don't like the new styling of the new ones. Or was it just the tail lights you didn't like on the hatchback? Now they've kept the other tail lights. Do you prefer it now? As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Now you're probably going to say, what's the point in talking about practicality, Brian? But to be honest with you, if you're buying a car this expensive, you still need it to be a little bit practical. And let's be honest, you know, if you're coming out, you know, maybe there's two of you or something, you're going for a long weekend away, you're going to need to put some soft bags in it. And it does have, I think, a relatively decent boot. It depends on whether you've got the roof up or down or not. If you've got the roof up, it's 215 litres of boot space that you get. If you fold it, then it's 160 litres that you get. But 160 litres is actually still quite a usable space. The only downside is the aperture of getting things through. However, although I don't have all my big suitcases, I do have, there's my carry-on that I came down here in, and that drops down in there. Look, you can get two of those in there easily. And hang on a second, where is it? I've also got my rucksack, because I've got a load of filming gear and my laptop and all sorts of things. That goes in there as well. And you'd still get double that in there. Now, to give you some idea as well, the other week I was testing the GWM Aura 3. It's a small, well, I say it's a small, it's a 5-door hatchback from the Chinese manufacturer Great Wall Motors. It's the same size as the Volkswagen Golf. It has 220 litres of boot space. And I don't think it's actually as practical as that. Although, as I say, the downside is the opening that you have there. But there you go. I don't think that's too bad. But if you do need even more space, you can fold the rear seats down. Now look, I'm not going to lose any more dignity than I already have on this channel, so I'm not going to climb in the back of this car. But you can see there, we're not going to class this as a 4-seat convertible, are we, in that sense? It does have rear seats. And that's my driving position. I'm 5'8", but even I wouldn't get behind me driving this car, in fairness. My daughter, who's 11, and a tall 11 in fairness, would maybe get in there for short journeys, or, you know, she would sacrifice, you know, sort of like a bit of comfort if we were having a nice fun day out in a convertible car, that type of thing. Or if you've got children in single digits, then I would think there's no issue with that. Or dare I suggest a small dog? You know, my dog would sit, you know, put his bed in there and he'd be quite happy in the back there. Kids wise, well, yes, you've still got Isofix points in there, and obviously, you know, so you can get child seats in the back, and obviously there's 3-point belts, there's adjustable head restraints, there's also 2 cup holders as well, if you want refreshments in the back, I suppose. But yeah, let's not kid anybody on here. You're not buying a Mini Convertible because you need a practical car, are you? Of more use to you will be this wind deflector, which is actually relatively easy, he says, to put it in. And I thought, I've taken it out, so I'll show you myself putting it back in here. So basically, you've got 2 holes on that side there that slots in there, 2 on this side there, and that's it. You clip it down and that's it. Perfect. And obviously you've still got that seat there, so you can throw some bags on the back of your jackets or whatever. There you go. Now, I have done a full review of the interior of this car, obviously a couple of times now, because this is interior shared right across all the Mini products now. So I've done it on Auto EV, on the Mini Electric, the Cooper Electric, I've done it on House of Cars and the Cooper Sport that I did, and obviously we've done it in Countryman and Aceman as well on Auto EV. But I think it's worth maybe just while going over it again. Apologies that it's bright sunshine, so you're maybe not going to see completely this. I'll put some B-roll up as well and use some of the B-roll footage from the manufacturer as well, just so you can see what I'm talking about. Now, this is really split people, this interior. It's a bit like the new design. Let me lay my sort of like thoughts out right here and now. I love this interior. I think this is absolutely fantastic. I adore what Mini have done with this interior. Now, as I say, this is an exclusive trim level, okay? So we'll go through the trim levels that you can get when we talk about pricing. Okay, so it's this sort of, it's a woven material here, and everybody's going, oh, it looks cheap. It doesn't, I promise you. Go and have a look at one in the dealership. It's lovely. It's just nice. I really like what they've done. It's on top of the doors. It stretches across the dash. This fabric is just glorious. And it's, you know, environmentally friendly. It's all recycled. Many are going leather free, so even the seats are like a leather substitute. You'd never know. You genuinely would never know. It's just lovely. Honestly, I promise you, it is delectable in here. I really like it. You get a 9.4-inch OLED circular display, okay? So this is all your instrumentation here, apart from if you have a head-up display, which this car has, which is a really good head-up display and really handy. But everything's sort of like mounted in here, okay? So you've got standard Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It's wireless. There's a wireless charging pad down there with a clip on it that keeps the phone tucked in there, okay? And you just scroll through the different screens. There's so much nice stuff in here. The clarity's good, you know, the swiftness, the response of it's brilliant. You know, you can really tailor it to how you want. You want the clock with just half of the Union Jack, it's there. You know, you've got obviously just a bit of thing there telling you there's a door open, that type of thing. Oh, hang on, what have I done there? He says, let's go back. You know, trip meter there, you know, you can see your trip there. It tells you the weather. You've got Spike, who's your onboard assistant. You know, you can just say, hey, insert name of car here, or name of dog, because he's a wee bulldog, play Radio 3, as it's saying there, or turn on heated seat, and that's what it does. Really good. And then you've got your media screen, you know, obviously for radio, or, you know, you're listening to this. And then you've got the nav, okay? So if we go into the nav screen here, now this is the interesting one here, because this morning I've been driving obviously out in the surrounding areas of Barcelona and the hills and stuff, and I'm using the Mini navigation for it, rather than, you know, Apple CarPlay and using Google Maps or Waze or stuff. It's really, really good. It's a really good navigation system, I have to say. And it fills pretty much the whole screen. There's just a little bit at the top that it leaves undone, and a slight bar at the bottom. So the bit at the top, just, you know, you're still get your kilometres, your power meter, your fuel gauge, and your total mileage there. And then you've still got, because everything's in this screen, so everything's controlled by it, so including your climate controls, which I'll go into in a second, but it's sort of overlaid on the map. Does that make sense? You know, so the map takes up, it's a really, really nice, and even in bright sunshine, I've had the roof down since they handed me the keys in an underground car park. The first thing I did was put the roof down. I told you I love convertibles. And drove out through Barcelona with the roof down and up into the hills and stuff. And there's not been a time where that hasn't been legible for me in bright sunshine. So it's really good, I promise you. Trust me on this, the interior's great. So if you go to your home screen, sorry, what I was trying to try and say there is if you use Apple CarPlay, however, it still is, because it's laid out to be in a sort of a rectangular landscape type of screen on any car, Apple CarPlay or on Android Auto, that's effectively what it does. So it's a strip across the centre of it that's different. Okay, that's good gesture control as well, isn't it? Yeah, it does. Yeah. Anyway, whereas if you're using the MINI navigation, it's all there. Okay. All right. So that's enough of that. I'm not going to go too much into this because I say I've done a lot about this before. And then you've got your telephone connectivity there. Okay. So let me just talk here about here. Your heating and ventilation controls are just that you've got temperature at the side here. Okay. So you can either swipe it, you know, up and down using your finger, or you can plus and minus. Now, what I will say is, it's a little, until you get used to where it is a little bit difficult to use on the move, more so than a physical button would be. Yeah, of course it is. Or, you know, even just, you know, a haptic feedback would be nice on the screen. It doesn't have that. That's the downside. So you do have to take your eye off the road a little bit to make sure you know what you're doing until you get used to it. But they're always there. They're permanently there, okay, the ventilation controls. The one thing I will say that I'm not so keen on is the heated seat and heated steering wheel, which in this car is a tiny little icon there. You've really got to make sure you press it. Again, that would be nice if it was maybe one of these buttons here. You know, just physical buttons for that. They've put it in the screen and they are quite small. That's the only downside. When you press it, it opens up. But again, the icons are still small. But 3-stage heated seat, 3-stage heated steering wheel. There you go. So as I say, the overall thing of it, I absolutely love. I think it's brilliant. But the little bits of it just could do with, you know, if there's a software upgrade in a couple of years' time or something, that's maybe things we need to think about, or just some haptic feedback would be nice. Okay, right, so that's that. You can also set up, where am I? Oh yeah, your experiences. Hang on a second, let me go right back to the right here. So these are your experiences, effectively driving modes. And again, I've gone through these before. So you've got go-kart, which changes everything to sort of like red and black, and you can see there it's all sporty looking and stuff. And then you've got core, which is effectively the normal mode, yeah? And then you go down to there and you go green, and that's like eco. So, you know, so you've got sport, and that sharpens the throttle up, holds the gears longer as you go up through the revs before it upshifts. It'll downshift and blip it on the downshift if you're slowing down for a corner, that type of thing, okay? Normal mode, or sorry, core is just normal, that just behaves normally. Efficient does everything like eco mode does. So the throttle pedal's a bit more, you know, you got to go through it a little bit more to get a sharper response. It's designed to get a more efficiency, and you've got a wee hummingbird that flaps faster or slower depending obviously on your efficiency. The rest of the experiences are just very much down to you. So you've got personal, where you can tune it yourself. Oh, vivid, which is to do with, I think it's more to do with the music, where you get the album artwork up on the screen and that type of thing. You know, it highlights more of your media there rather than anything else. I don't know why it's called vivid. You've got timeless, which is quite nice, especially in this spec of car, you know, where it's designed to be the old sepia-tinged gauge cluster of the old original Mini. Again, quite a nice thing to do, you know, with a rotating odometer. I quite like that, that's quite nice. And then from there, you've got balance. And I'm never really sure what balance does either. I don't know. What you can do when you're in the individual mode, however, is you can set it up through the Mini app. You can have up, you know, like a personal image up there. So you can have like a picture of your dog, your kids up on there if you wanted. Mini can't see that, it's just your car that sees it, okay? It's just designed between your car and your phone. So that's what you can have. That's all your different driving experiences. The one last thing that I didn't talk about, let's go back to where I was at core. The one last thing I didn't talk about is it does have these little apps, you know, so you go in there, there's all your little apps there, okay? So there's your Mini ID, your personal assistant, your connected store. You've got Amazon Alexa now as well, so you can control your, you know, your smart hub from things like that. Android Auto and things like that. Assisted view, so you've got things like lane keep assist, you know, all that type of thing. Also your cameras front and back, so you can have that sort of like side up. You can go into your driver settings and set the vehicle up how you want it. And I'm going to talk about that when we do drive the car. You know, things like switching off stop start, support, you know, lane keep departure, that type of thing. You can turn those off. And there's the other thing that, what's this? Let's celebrate. What's that? Oh, look at this. There's a wee funky dance. Oh, there's Spike. Oh, that's just a wee animation. That's quite nice. I better turn that down in case I get thingied for copyright. Good audio system in the car as well, by the way. That's the one thing I will say. But while you're in here, sorry, because I got really delayed by all of that. While you're in here, where is it? I saw it earlier. Oh, for goodness sake. There's loads of apps on this now. Always open timer. So I don't know if you remember on the original Mini Convertible, when they launched it, I think 2004, didn't they? You had a little, like a secondary gauge cluster here that showed you how much time your roof had been down. It's now on the digital thing, so you can still have that. Right, look, I'm not going to go through all because, you know, you'll get bored of me talking. But as I say, it's good. It needs a bit of learning, and it's fine. I really love the design. I love the look of it. I love the clarity of it. I just wish there was some things that were maybe a bit bigger, and you just got a little bit more feedback to let you know you've touched the screen. That's all I'm going to say. Right, enough of that. Down here, this bank here is your park brake. There is just now a button. This toggle switches your gear selector. Now, it's only available with an automatic transmission, this car, a 7-speed auto. And that's one thing I must admit. Whilst it's quite nice driving through Barcelona with the automatic box, when you've been up in the hills, I would quite like a manual option on the car. But there you go, everyone's going that way now anyway. But that's your gear selector there. Your engine stop start is effectively this key that's embedded in there, and you just turn it to start. You know, I like that, that's cool. And then turn it off to stop. And there's your experiences, and that's your volume control for your media there. And then you get these buttons down here. Now this one here is your drive support button. So if I, oh, hang on, because I've switched it off. Hang on, let me show this up here. So if I press, I know the door's open, I've left it open. Press that. Here you go, driver assistance, speed limit warning, lane departure warning. So again, it's one press and then another just to turn things off. However, your speed limit warning now, if you press and hold the set button on the steering wheel, it's a bit like BMW now, you press and hold that, it deactivates the speed limit warning. More than 3 seconds and it turns it off. So you don't need to go into that if that's the only one you want turned off. But the ones you want quick access to, that's them there. And there's your drivetrain and chassis things there. So auto stop start, drive off support. I think it tells you if the car in front's moving off, and automatic hold. So when you take your foot off the brake, if you've had it on the brake, it'll hold it for you. Okay, so that's what that is. There's your cameras. So you press that, you can see you've got your front camera there. Oh, hang on, what did I do wrong there? And then you can show your other cameras down the side of the car. Look at that, on a Mini. There you go. Hazards, maximum defrost and rear heated rear screen, because remember it's a glass rear screen. Wireless charging pad, 2 cup holders, very good. I do have a bottle of water here. Fits in there obviously, and it also fits in the door. And then you've got this box here, this knitted box in there. I really like that. You can drop your phone in there, or your wallet, or your keys. I like that. 2 USB-C charging ports there. There's a 12-volt socket there. The only thing is this armrest doesn't lift up. That's fixed in position. That might have been nice if that could either just be folded up or it had an opening top. That'd be nice, Mini. And then you've got glove box there. You've got the toggle switches there to turn your vents on and off as well, which is quite nice. Now, my only big criticism with the car, as it has been with all new Minis and dare I suggest BMWs, the steering wheels are too thick. I don't like these. These are just too thick. You know, I've only got wee chubby hands. you can't get your thumb, you know, it just feels, it doesn't feel right in a Mini to me. That just doesn't feel right. It's just too thick. It needs to be thinned out a bit. But the buttons are nice. You know, it's a 2-spoke design with the 3rd spoke being this canvas strap, which I do like. Oh, you've also got the ability to knock all the windows down from the driver's door as well. So you can knock all 4 windows down from the driver's door. Seats are lovely. I've been driving the car all morning and they are really, really cracking seats these. They're really supportive, they really hold you well. There's enough lateral support down the side of your thighs, there's enough lateral support down your back, and I think the squabs are long enough. You don't need much more of adjustment in these, and they've got nice integrated head restraints, and obviously they're heated in this car as well. So, as I say, I'm not going to go too much on about that because I've talked long enough about it. The interior I really like. I've always liked the new Mini interior. A lot of people don't like it, but please, if you haven't been to see it in your local dealer and you're judging it by what you've seen in magazines and pictures on the websites and on YouTube and stuff, don't go and look at it, because I think this is delectable. I love it. Yeah, I love this material dashboard. I really do. It feels special, I think. And as I say, I really like this exclusive trim level. I think it really, really works on the car. But yeah, there we go. It's a win for me. See, here's the thing. They're all 2-litre 4 cylinders now. No 1.5 litre 3-cylinder engine under the bonnet of the new Mini Convertible. They're all 2-litre 4 cylinders. And power outputs, I think, are, well, adequate, shall we say. So you start with the Mini C, or the Cooper C, sorry, apologies, and that has 163 horsepower. Now my Cooper S, my original R52 Cooper S was 171 horsepower? So it's nigh on as quick as that car was back in the day. 250 Newton meters of torque in that car is what you get. If you go for this S here, that's 204 horsepower. So effectively the S is now the equivalent of what the old JCW cars were. You know, with, what was it they had, 201 when you put the John Cooper works on the original R53s and the R56s. And then you go for the JCW. Oh, sorry, I didn't mention torque there. So you've got 250 Newton meters of torque on the C, you go for the S, it's 204 horsepower and 300 Newton meters of torque. Okay, then you got for the JCW, who obviously king of the hill, and that's 231 horsepower and 380 Newton meters of torque. So just to go through performance figures before we head out on the road. Your 0 to 62 time on the Cooper C with 160 horsepower is 8.2 seconds. On the Cooper S, this one, it's 6.9, so roughly about the same, because bear in mind the weight's gone up. And the JCW is 6.5, so there's not a massive load of difference between the S and the JCW in terms of outright acceleration. Interesting. But yeah, there you go, 2-litre 4-cylinder engine under the bonnet of a Mini. There you go. Oh, and you see what I meant about the clamshell bonnet? Yeah, there you go. Right, now I'd love to say I've got my sunglasses on because I want to look cool, but I don't think a 50-odd-year-old man driving around in a convertible Mini with sunglasses on really can look cool. So it's just to stop the sun getting in my eyes, folks, I promise you. Because it's lovely and sunny here in Spain. Right, so I've got a Cooper S, which is 204 horsepower, 0 to 60, 6.9 seconds and 300 Newton meters of torque. So it's not a slouch, yeah? It's quite a quick little car. And as I say, I've been driving it around this morning and I've been on some stunning roads. Unfortunately, there was nowhere to really stop and sort of like, you know, do my little piece to cameras and stuff, but hopefully we'll get some nice sort of like, you know, external GoPro stuff with the cameras on the car and thing. Right. How does it drive? Well, look, I'm obviously driving with the roof down and have been this morning pretty much all the way. And what I will say is this, it's a really refined car with the roof down. It's absolutely fine. You know, I was even on, you know, parts of the Spanish motorway network, you know, driving along at sort of like 120 kilometers an hour, which is that, 80, something like that with the speed limit, with the roof down. And it's absolutely fine. This wind deflector does help, there's no doubt about that. Oh, let me just turn that down there. That's fine. But what do we expect from it? Well, we expect it to be like a Mini. And that's exactly what it drives like. It drives like a Mini. It's, sorry, we've just gone past the noisy roadworks there. Thank you, chaps. It drives like a Mini. And that's the thing, and I know you're going to go, well, of course it drives like a Mini, Brian, it is a Mini, but here's the thing, you don't always get convertible cars driving like their hardtop equivalents, but Mini managed to seem to have done it. So it's the same oh, I'm gonna have to do it. I'm gonna have to use the expression go-kart feel that you get from a Mini. There's nothing else to sort of like say about it. There's nothing. There's no other expression to use when we're talking about how a Mini handles. That's exactly it. It's very sharp to turn in. Immediate response from the steering. You got a nice response from the throttle, and that's it. You know, what else is there to say? Ride quality's good. I mean, again, I would have to drive it in, you know, sort of like in the UK on our patinaed roads, shall we call it, to sort of like, you know, to find out whether or not that is actually still the case when we've got it back in Blighty. But I can't imagine it's going to be night and day difference. You know, there's not a lot of scuttle shake comes from the screen. Oh, there's a beautiful lake. There's not a lot of sort of like, you know, scuttle shake comes from the screen. You know, the car itself seems to sort of like, you know, be very sort of like well behaved on these very, very twisty Spanish mountain roads. You know, there's very little body roll, there's very little body shake. The rigidity of the car feels good. You know, you pitch it into a bend, these tighter hairpins, you turn in, you apply throttle, it behaves like a Mini. But now you've got the added benefit of not having a roof on you. But it's not perfect. And here's the thing that, you know, that I'm going to say. Do you know what I'm really missing? A manual gearbox. Or at least the ability to select gears manually. That's what I would really like here. I have to say that that's the one thing that I really am missing from this car, because just a little bit more interaction would be nice with it. You know, it's such a fun little car to drive. And there's just times, you know, and again, up on the mountain there, you know, when you were coming into hairpins, it'd just be nice to sort of like select the gear myself. And whether or not that is with an actual manual box, or whether or not it's with, you know, a paddle, I don't really mind. But yeah, it would just be nice to be able to have some control over it, rather than relying on the car just to do it all for me. Other than that, that's it. The engine's nice. The engine's got an actual nice response from it. You know, when you put your foot down, you do get quite an instant throttle response from it. Now, I'm driving it in core mode, you know, as part of the driving experiences. But if I flick it now up, let's have a look here. If I move it up to, where are we? Oh, if I move it up, where are we? Into go-kart mode now. So you get a little bit more noise from it as such. Okay, so the exhaust sort of like opens up a little bit. You can hear a bit more exhaust note from it. And it holds on to the gears longer now before it upshifts. And it's those times that I'm talking about. You know, when I had it in the go-kart mode, it would have been really nice just to have that control over it. It does blip it on the downshift. But again, having a paddle would just add to the interaction with it. Now, I think you get the paddles on the sport trim, but my problem is I quite like this exclusive. I really like this. So if I'm going exclusive, why can't I be a little bit sporty as well? Don't know why. See? God, these roads are fabulous. This is a stunning view as well, this lake. It's a shame there wasn't a sort of like a little lay-by next to the lake. I could have done the video next to the lake, but never mind. But gosh, it is tight round here. And it is a great little car for these roads. You see what I mean? It's just that, it's not the control that you want from a sporty little convertible. Anyway, there we go. That's by the by. Other than that, it is exactly as we've had before with the Mini. It's exactly what we expect. A nice sprightly engine. Hang on, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to flick that down back into core, so that it's not quite as irritating. You've still got the sprightly handling little car. It rides well, it steers amazingly. Oh, the other thing I don't particularly like about it, as you all know if you've watched the channel before, too thick a steering wheel. I think these steering wheels are far too thick. Many shouldn't have steering wheels this sort of girth. It just feels wrong. You know, it feels like it's been taken from another car and put in here. That shouldn't be this thick. It should be a little bit thinner. I should get a little bit more feel from it, but I can't, because it's just too fat, you know, in my hand. It's like holding two pairs of great big bloody sausages in my hand. Other than that, I really like it. It's a great little car. Brakes are nice too, especially on these hairpin bends. You get a nice feel from the pedal, you get really nice progression from it too. There's very little body roll, but there's just enough that you feel in control of it. You know where the limits are. Grip is good. Again, I'm in the dry on these sort of like nice smooth Spanish roads, but I can imagine it's not going to be any really different to the grip that that you get from the UK. Now, there's very little compromise to be made here. The only compromise I would suggest is your rearward visibility. Whilst it's not brilliant in the Mini, obviously they've tried their best to get that hood down as far as it can, but you're constantly aware of it being in your vision as you look into the rear view mirror. Other than that, it's a Mini, which means it's brilliant and it's fun and it makes me smile, and because it's convertible, it's even better. I like it. Right, let's have a wee chat about price, shall we? Because as I say, it's a premium product, so it's going to be a premium price, I'm afraid to say. You start with the Cooper C at £27,120. If you want an S, then you move up to 31,570, and if you want a JCW, it's 36,580. But here's the thing, it's not just as simple as that, because obviously you've got your three levels. You've got your C, your S and your JCW, onto which then you have to add a trim level, unless it's a JCW, more of which in a second. So you either have classic, exclusive or sport, okay? This is an exclusive. That adds on to that price as well. And then on top of that, you then have option packs, level 1, level 2, level 3. From memory, if you go for an exclusive like this, it gets the level 1 stuff as standard, so it's only a 2 and a 3 you have to add on to it. But it does soon add up, in fairness. You can get into sort of like, some pretty chunky bits of money by the time you've added on to this. Now, obviously, the JCW is effectively a sport model anyway, so that gets quite a lot of equipment on it as standard, but you can still put options onto it. So yeah, it's not a cheap car. It's a small car, it's not a cheap car. But then what are you going to compare it to? Because let's be honest, small convertibles, they're not exactly falling out of trees at the moment, are they? Now obviously you've got things such as the Abarth 500, but of course that's now gone fully electric. So that would have been a competitor for it, and that's not a cheap car either. That's mid-30s going up from there. Citroen, or DS Automobiles, they no longer make the little DS3 Cabrio that used to be sort of like, a worthy competitor for this car as well. I suppose maybe you might look at the Fiat 500, as well, but again, it's not really got the power. If you're looking at something like a Cooper S, then you've got to look at Abarth, which means you've got to look at electric, So in some respects, maybe the competition for it is going to be something like a small two-seat sports car, in which case you're going to be looking at maybe something like a Mazda MX-5. But yeah, it's fairly unique in some respects, the new MINI Cooper Convertible, which is a good thing. There will be some people out there, no doubt, wondering, did I really need to come down to Spain to find out whether or not I liked the new MINI Cooper Convertible? Because let's be honest, it's a Mini and it's a convertible, two things that I absolutely love. But for me, there was a bigger question to be answered than that. And the question was, is it more style over substance? In other words, have they put form over function? Would it still drive like a Mini? Would it still thrill like I think the new Mini hatchback does, the Cooper hatchback? And the answer to that is yes, it does. It's absolutely fantastic to drive. It's a bit heavier, of course it is. Cars are getting heavier. It's not the Mini as it once was in some respects as well. But the added performance you now get with that 2-litre 4-cylinder engine is a welcome boost. Don't get me wrong, I'd quite like a manual option. That's the one thing that I'm going to take away from this, where I'm a little bit disappointed. Even on this exclusive, while you can have the paddles on the sport models, it would even just be nice to have a bit more manual control over the gearbox, especially around these twisty roads, especially because I quite like this exclusive trim. I do think that's a little bit of a missed opportunity. But in all other respects, this is a brilliant little car. I know it's not cheap. No Mini is these days, and I know it's not very practical, but let's be honest, what convertible is, what Mini is. No, they've absolutely nailed it. It's as good to drive, if not more so for us that like a bit of open top motoring, than a standard Mini Cooper. The fact I've had to come to Spain to find that out, well, that's just an added bonus. Thank you for watching another new car review on House of Cars. As always, please make sure you are subscribed to the channel if you haven't done already, and make sure you then press the little bell button down below, because that's the way you get notified when the next video is uploaded and it's gone live. If you have enjoyed this week's review, and I sincerely hope you have, then please don't forget, give it a little thumbs up, and also don't forget, leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. Are you a Mini convertible driver at the moment? What do you think of the new Mini Cooper convertible? Is it tempting you to trade up? Have you never considered a Mini before, but now you're thinking, actually, I quite fancy getting a little bit of vitamin C on my skin? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Now, I'm across on Instagram as well, so if you're a bit of a social media fan, I suppose, that, then it's at House of Cars 1973, and I do plan to do a little bit more social media this year, so please give me a follow there, because that certainly helps. If you're interested in electric cars, then you'll find me across on Auto EV on the YouTube channel, so give us a follow there too. And remember, whether or not it is a small car, or whether it is a big car, whether it is a slow car or a fast car, whether or not it is a cheap car or an expensive car, a new car or an old car, you'll find them all here in the House of Cars. Thanks again for watching. Thank you again for supporting the channel. I'll see you again soon, back in good old Blighty.